Hello, I'm Gabriella, a dedicated fan of Raunchy. Over the years, I have personally transcribed many of their songs and published them online, and I follow the band closely on social media. I can confidently say they are one of my favorite bands, if not my absolute favorite. Disclaimer: please note that everything written in this review is based entirely on my personal opinion and my subjective experience with the band's music. In this ranking, the albums will compete against each other based on 6 specific categories. 1. Art, the design, layout, and overall aesthetics of the album cover. 2. Album concept, the thematic core and what the album is about. 3. Hook songs, the number and percentage of tracks that instantly grabbed me. The main purpose of this category is to punish albums that include filler tracks. 4. Top 20 hook average, the average position of each album's rated tracks from my personal top 20 checklist. Its purpose is to make the songs from each album compete directly against each other. 5. Production sound, the characteristic production style and sonic quality of the record. 6. Composition complexity, how the tracks are structured and how well the melodies balance out with the technical complexity. Covers, which are remakes of other artists' songs, will not be taken into account in the scores. The albums are ranked by positions. The lower the final result score, the better the album is. Let us begin with Velvet Noise, released in 2021. Regarding art, it features 2 well-formed skulls. Despite being their debut album, the art is good. For the album concept, it has a very solid concept and a defined style showing a blend of harshness and melody reflecting extreme emotional states, from despair and pain to the search for hope and catharsis. Regarding production sound, the sound is massive for its era. Only the vocals don't entirely convince me, but they fit a gothic vibe. The guitar and bass sound very powerful, and the synths are clean and clear. Looking at hook songs, it has 5 out of 12, which equals to 41.67% of the album, on those, Crack of Dawn, Never Be, 12 Feet Tall, Decemberclear, and From Out of Nowhere. For composition complexity, this is the album's weakest point due to being their first, but comparing it to the others, it is still worth mentioning. There are long tracks like This Is Not an Exit, something rarely done nowadays since bands usually want to finish a song as quickly as possible. The length of the tracks deserves credit here. As for personal notes, you can feel that this album contains the foundational elements of Raunchy's characteristic sound, defining their future style. Moving on to Confusion Bay, released in 2024. Regarding art, the cover looks good, but I do not fully understand what it is trying to convey. For the album concept, the overall concept explores the tension between the collective and the individual, the routine and the chaotic, the light and the dark. Raunchy uses their hybrid style to show modern life as an emotional and social battlefield, where music serves as an escape valve. Regarding production sound, the vocals and synths improved compared to the previous album. With this record, Raunchy truly defines their style. Vocal hooks are more consistent and predictable, and the guitars have a solid structure. Looking at hook songs, it has 6 out of 12, which equals to 50% of the album. On those, we have Join the Scene, I Get What I See, Summer Overload, Watch Out, Confusion Bay, and The Devil. For composition complexity, shorter but more consistent tracks are a strong point of this album, avoiding unnecessary rambling. Next is Death Pop Romance, released in 2026. Regarding art, the cover feels a bit strange. The color palette is good, but the symbol is unusual. For the album concept, this block of songs reflects the duality between memory and struggle, hope and resignation, myth and reality. Raunchy builds an emotional landscape where persistence and remembrance are the keys to transcending pain and turning it into legend. Regarding production sound, there is a substantial improvement in sonic composition. It feels full, and the structure serves its purpose without saturation. The absolute highlights of this album are the vocals and vocal hooks. This is the exact milestone where the band started implementing heavy vocal overlayering and overdubbing alongside the synth layers over the guitars, creating a uniquely massive atmosphere. The only flaw is that it still sounds slightly dated compared to subsequent albums. This one deserves a remake. Looking at hook songs, it has 7 out of 10, which equals to 70% of the album. On those, we have This Legend Forever, Phantoms, Remembrance, Live the Myth, The Velvet Remains, The Curse of Bravery, and City of Hurt. Because it features almost zero filler, it earned the top spot in this category. I believe this is Raunchy's best album in terms of songwriting. For composition complexity, the synthesizers feature fitting effects. Clean and harsh vocals enter at the perfect moments. The song structures are unconventional, providing more variety and exquisitely satisfying high expectations. The vocal hooks are incredibly catchy. As for personal notes, this is my personal favorite album by Raunchy. This is where they defined their best style. Now let us talk about Wasteland Discotheque, released in 2008. Regarding art, it is still strange, but a change is a change. I like that the cover is more realistic, though I hope it is not based on something real, as I have seen covers featuring real corpses. For the album concept, it presents a post-apocalyptic world where music and community become a refuge against chaos. Raunchy mixes celebratory vibes with devastation, showing that even in ruins, there is room for resistance, celebration, and hope. Regarding production sound, the sound is improved and highly professional. Sonically, the band reached perfection here as a melodic metal band, outdoing the previous album. They masterfully continued the vocal overlayering technique. I love that the vocal hooks are more elaborate. You can really feel the pop influence in the choruses, making them catchy, while the growls remain brutal, offering the best of both worlds. Looking at hook songs, it has 7 out of 11, which equals to 63.64% of the album. On those, we have Somewhere Along the Road, The Bash, Warriors, Straight to Hell, Welcome the Storm, A Heavy Burden, and To the Lighthouse. For composition complexity, every song is unique and distinct. The synths do their job beautifully, bringing novelty and blending excellently with the guitars. Mastering and mixing are flawless. They even ventured into longer tracks. As for personal notes, this should have been Raunchy's best album, but including long songs, intros, and covers lowered the bar in terms of composition. If they had maintained the tighter focus of the previous album alongside this improved sound, it would have been very difficult for Raunchy to top themselves. Next we have a Discord Electric, released in 2010. Regarding art, I like the background. It feels intentionally bizarre in a way, but since it's recognizable, it serves its purpose. Generally, I prefer raunchy covers that feature the band members. For the album concept, it portrays life in a chaotic urban world where partying, violence, social commentary, and memory intertwine. Raunchy proposes a scenario where music is both a weapon and a sanctuary, and where the electricity of chaos becomes an identity. Regarding production sound, the guitar tone improved. No single instrument overpowers another, and everything can be heard clearly. Sound quality increased slightly compared to the previous album. You can notice the use of new tunings like drop A on some tracks, which became part of Raunchy's evolution. The signature vocal overdubbing and vocal layering remain a staple of their heavy choruses. Looking at hook songs, it has 6 out of 12, which equals to 50% of the album. On those, we have Dim the Lights and Run, Rumors of Worship, Night Party, Blueprints for Lost Sounds, Shake Your Grave, and The Yeah Thing. For composition complexity, composition quality dropped compared to the previous album despite having more tracks. The breakdowns took a step back, but mastering techniques improved substantially. It is also worth noting that this is the most ambitious album of the Casper era. As for personal notes, my favorite song from the entire band, The Yeah Thing, comes from this album. It was their longest album at the time, and the tracks transition perfectly, making one feel like a continuation of the next. Following that is Vice's Virtues Visions, released in 2014. Regarding art, the artwork is beautiful, I am speechless. It is easily the best cover they have ever done, using vector elements that help add motion and animation. For the album concept, it showcases a new direction. It explores human extremes like sins, desires, power, and apathy, against a technological future that redefines existence. It is an album that questions identity, truth, and transcendence in a world where the digital and human realms merge. Regarding production sound, the innovative aspect of this album is the inclusion of cinematic elements, adding an epic scale to the tracks. This is a common and successful trend in modern metal. It feels highly experimental, proving Raunchy wanted to try something different, making this album stand out. The guitar riffs are extremely clean yet brutal, and they even included solos on a few tracks. There are also ballad elements adapted into metal, which is highly appreciated. The clean vocals take a massive risk with experimental overdubbing styles that feel distinct from the Casper era. At most, the only things that get a bit buried are some synths, but that is part of the experience. Looking at hook songs, it has 5 out of 11, which equals to 45.45% of the album. On those, we have Eyes of a Storm, Truth Taker, The Castaway Crown, Frozen Earth, and Clarity. It dropped places here because the filler tracks directly penalized its score. For composition complexity, the sonic complexity increased, but it is not necessarily better. Some tracks feel needlessly extended, which dilutes their core essence. Sometimes shorter is better. However, I can understand it given the cinematic nature of the album. They reinvented themselves with the chorus hooks, or at least that core strength remains. The initiative to explore new horizons is highly appreciated. As for personal notes, Raunchy made this album with a renewed energy thanks to their new singer at the time, Mike. Until this album, I did not know Raunchy could do guitar solos, though I feel they should have given them more room. Finally, let us talk about Prisoner, released in 2026. Regarding art, it features the word prisoner scattered across the ground in a 3D render. The scene looks excellent. For the album concept, this feels like a medley of the concepts Raunchy previously utilized throughout their discography. Regarding production sound, it retains the cinematic aspect of the previous album. The tracks have appropriate lengths. Few songs exceed their welcome, achieving a great balance. Sonically, it represents the final evolutionary form of the Vices Virtues Visions and a Discord Electric eras, showing a mix of modern elements and the classic style. It is a less risky bet that I really enjoy, featuring cinematic sound effects and fresh synthesizer textures. The signature clean vocal overlaying is at its absolute best across all albums so far. Looking at hook songs, it has 6 out of 10, which equals to 60% of the album. On those, we have Frostbite, Frameworker, Designed Despair, Stranded, Higher Truths, and Vanishing Act. For composition complexity, it reaches the necessary level of complexity without being as oversaturated as its predecessor. Acting as a medley of Raunchy's past work, it finds a very accurate equilibrium point. The songs last exactly as long as they should, and the choruses bring a nostalgic nod to classic Raunchy with a modern touch. While they dialed back on the guitar solos, the characteristic breakdowns are fully maintained and recovered. As for personal notes, this album brings back a bit of nostalgia. The title track Prisoner is beautiful and stands out as a highlight of the album, but due to the band's style, it is not counted as a hook song. It feels like what a Discord Electric should have been, which makes sense given the rhythm, as it is their comeback album after nearly 12 years. I hope Raunchy releases albums more frequently moving forward. Now the moment of truth has arrived, the one we have all been waiting for. Looking at the final numbers, I find these results to be completely acceptable. Even though my absolute favorite album ended up in second place, it makes sense. It is completely normal for the band's earliest albums to score lower or sit at the bottom of the list. Rather than a flaw, this serves as definitive proof that the band underwent an incredible and highly successful musical evolution throughout their entire career. When organizing this ranking system, I realized that a pure inverse position voting method could result in major injustices. For instance, an extraordinary musical masterpiece could suffer a massive drop in points simply because its cover artwork was not appealing to me. Visual aesthetic should not overpower musical brilliance. To fix this, I engineered a vital metric, called the Top 20 Hook Average. Its true purpose is to pit the individual tracks from different albums against each other in a direct, head-to-head battle. By making the songs directly compete, the system gives a fair boost to albums with incredible songwriting. Thanks to this calculation, Wasteland Discotheque successfully balanced out its lower art score to rise as the official #1 overall winner, closely followed by Death Pop Romance.